Sickos Club.
Sickos Club.
Hey, come here. You like pro wrestling? We got a little something for you. Two fans, 3,000 miles away. We each been watching for more than 30 years. Celebrate the art form, the action, the homoeroticism. We ain't rating matches. We ain't analyzing stories. We ain't experts. We just sit down, shut up, and mark out! Hello, everybody. This is Blade Daily coming at you with a very special edition of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out. It's a pro wrestling podcast. It's about pro wrestling. I am here. I told you this is a very special edition, and I'm not joshing you, okay? But my guest's name is not Josh. It is David L. Shabazz. David, you have written this really incredible book about pro wrestling's Black World Champions. It's in its third edition. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
David Shabazz. I am a full-time college professor. I got into writing, really since college. I've been writing. I was a newspaper reporter. I studied journalism in college, so I was newspaper reporter. And in college, I was also a news director at a radio station. I was fortunate enough that my internship at this radio station turned into a job for me. So I was really fortunate for that. It's a small radio station, but, you know, it's the experience that counts. And that's what I try to get across to even my students now. You know, you learn the skills and you can move on somewhere else. So that's basically me in a nutshell.
Okay. All right. So when did you become interested in pro wrestling? What age were you? What drew you to it?
Oh, gosh. That's in my family.
Okay.
Grew up watching professional wrestling all my life. So I'm 50 something now and 56. But yeah, so I've been watching it all my life. I mean, mom, dad, grandmother, everybody watched it. So it's a part of me. It's in my DNA.
You know, it's that way for so many people. You know, I was a kid who grew up watching completely just my friends told me a little bit about it. And then I became a way bigger fan than any of them were. And
wow.
No one in my family watches it. And I talk to people all the time who are like, yeah, my dad and I were talking about, you know, Dynamite or AEW or whatever. And I'm like, man, that would have been so cool. That would have been so cool.
Right.
Instead, I was that nerdy kid that tried to hide that I watched wrestling from everybody because
wow,
that's the thing you got to, you know, that people don't, you know, especially younger people right now where nerd culture is so prevalent is like, It wasn't cool to be a nerd. You got picked on for that.
That's true.
So what drew you to write a book about Black World Champions in pro wrestling?
You know, this is, I really have to give my brother credit for this. My older brother, Julian, who passed away in 2020.
Sorry to hear it.
He was the person who was really the authority, and he wrote a book called Black Stars of Professional Wrestling back in 1999, which kind of started the whole thing. He was, with this particular publication, Pro Wrestling's Black World Champions, he was commissioned by one of the publications. I want to say it was Kayfabe magazine. I'm not quite sure about that. They commissioned him to write an article on Black professional world champions. So that's really where it started, from that article. And he expanded that article into a PDF, which was kind of more of a booklet, if you will. That was the actual first edition. And when he passed, I, when you end up going through family's files and everything, I found that. And I was like, okay, it'd be a good way to, you know, just pay some homage to my brother and just kind of put out a second edition. And because a few more people had become world champions since then, at the time, it was like people like Mark Henry, I think, had become like the ECW champion. I think he had mentioned him when ECW was owned by WWF. He had
Right.
so, it was kind of it was kind of more of an asterisk because it really wasn't the original ECW. So, some of those things had changed. Mark Henry had actually won it in WWE. And
Right.
so there were a few more champions. So, it kind of gave me a chance to upgrade it. And a few more people have won. When I kind of saw how people were responsive and receptive to that, which was really the second edition, but because the first one was so small, a lot of people really didn't know about that one.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave me the when more people had become champion, it kind of allowed me to update that into the third edition, which I kind of wanted to do anyway. I don't plan on doing any more editions, but at this point, but who knows?
Wrestling fans are so passionate, right? And it's an audience that, hey, if you're trying to sell a book, I mean, a wrestling book, it can find an audience. That is for certain.
That's true. Diehard fans. I mean, it's there's always an audience for among pro wrestlers. Yes,
absolutely, absolutely. And what I like about this book is that it really looks at the history of the black experience in professional wrestling over, a century almost. Yes. And, you chronicle kind of the segregation of the business for a long time, long after Jackie Robinson and long after, football was integrated, professional wrestling was still segregated, and kind of start with this analysis of a very particular thing, which we'll talk about in a minute here. Mm-hmm. Then you take this broader look at those pioneers that were, what was referred to as the colored world champion at the time, or the Negro world champion at the time, which right. As a nerdy white boy sitting here saying this stuff, I'm like, oh my God. But that is what it was called. Right. And yes. So you have this focus on the pioneers who weren't officially recognized as world champions. And then you kind of get into that. So when you look at the broader history of pro wrestling, what makes the story of Black world champions so uniquely important?
I think just the overall struggles that they had to go through, those challenges. I mean, when you think about, we've heard about it in other sports, but not really in wrestling. But it was the same kind of struggles when there was the small Chitlin circuit, if you will, that they had to perform on only in these little small venues among Black audiences. And, when they couldn't wrestle against the white performers. And it was just the struggles that they had to go through. I think that's what really makes it important because, a lot of people really discounted the Black audiences, really thought that we were not fans of the sport like we are and have been. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the promoters recognize that now. I don't think they did to the degree that they should have at first, or the appeal of those particular wrestlers. I mean, because the wrestling fans, regardless of their race, they know the struggle that a person has to go through, especially to get to be a champion. So there's respect for that. If you're a good wrestler, if you're a good performer, the fans are going to like you regardless.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, how all of us who've watched this stuff for, our entire lives, like how many wrestlers have you fallen in love with that never got a huge moment or a huge push, but you knew how important they were? Like, hey, like this guy only works with people who are on the come up and, they put him with this guy because they're testing him out or whatever, I mean, we start to know all these weird little details of the business as it goes along. But much like the Negro Leagues in baseball, a lot of this history is undocumented or very scantily documented, of some of these wrestlers. And you've put a lot of work in this book, which again is Pro Wrestling's Black World Champions, 3rd edition. You can find it online anywhere. I highly recommend you do. But you put a lot of research into this, finding stuff. What was the hardest part of the research? Was it finding the records, verifying the stories? Was it navigating wrestling mythology? You know?
Yes, that was the hardest part. I mean, really just trying to verify everything because, I think people kind of recognize now that the whole thing of kayfabe and wrestlers stayed in character all the time, even with the stories and the promoters. The promoters back in those days really didn't like a lot of press for their wrestlers because they knew that, hey, somebody, I went to school with this person and, they could identify him and they could tell you that, Nikita Koloff is from Minneapolis. He's not really from Russia, the Soviet Union, and those kinds of things. But they played those characters so well. It could really get confusing. And there was a person who, not in this particular publication, but in my brother's larger work, the guy I forget his name, was like Hussein or something. And he was an American. But he played this character, and played it all the way, and even gave press interviews and everything where it's just really hard to verify. Okay, what is this person's real name? Where did they really come from? And
right.
And if there are any omissions and that was one thing that my brother always put in his books, and I put it in there as well. If somebody is missing, just let us know. It's not on purpose. We want to make sure that the information is correct before we put it out there. And that was the absolute hardest part. I talked to a couple of historians, going through some records, and even I was fortunate enough to get interviews with a few people like Ron Simmons and Ric Flair. And people may say, why Ric Flair? Because Ric Flair wrestled a lot of the black performers from Bobo Brazil all the way on. So he's a wealth of knowledge.
That's fantastic. And speaking of Ron Simmons is the first officially recognized Black World Champion. And folks, I want you to let this sink in. It happened in 1992. Right? It was not very long ago that there had never been a recognized Black World Champion. And this book does such a great job of illustrating, like, that doesn't mean there wasn't some controversy around those topics, right? Like, for instance, Bearcat Wright, who you talk yes. about Bearcat Wright winning the WWA title in kind of a shoot almost. He kind of went into business for himself with classy Freddie Blassie, right?
Right.
And headbutted him for real and then pinned him for real and then refused to lose the title.
Right. I mean, it kind of, it kind of went to Bearcat's head. I mean, okay, I'm the champion. And he enjoyed being the champion so much that he didn't want to lose. I mean, I get it, all of the perks that come with it, but in that business, you have to do the honors with each other. I mean, classy Freddie Blassie, he gave you the honors. You're supposed to do it back to him the way Ron Simmons did with Vader.
Right.
And that particular match, anybody will tell you, Vader fought for real. And he told everybody he was in the ring with, look, I'm going to hit you for real, and I expect you to hit me back for real. We're really going to fight. I mean, if you can't take it, let me know right now. And that's why those matches, anybody that fights Big Van Vader, I mean, you enjoy watching those matches because he was not pulling those punches at all, and that's the way he wanted it.
Well, you bring up a great point. Big Van Vader, probably, in my opinion, maybe the greatest super heavyweight kind of ever, and there's a reason why his matches look so good is because he's laying them in. And when you got Ron Simmons on the other side of that, you better be careful because that guy could put you down for real. Like Ron Simmons, He did famously refer to himself as unfuckwithable.
and that's so true. I mean, because Ron Simmons was bench pressing 500 pounds in high school. I don't think that man recognizes, his own strength.
And it should be said, he won the title from Vader before he lost it back to him. And it was a very interesting situation the way it was set up. It was on a house show that they were filming.
Yes.
And Sting was attacked by Jake the Snake Roberts earlier in the evening, who was Vader's scheduled opponent. And then there was this lottery to see who would face Vader instead. And Ron Simmons wins this luck of the draw thing. And, if I'm a fan in the arena that night, knowing anything about wrestling, I'm like, this is weird. This is like a weird setup, And why are there cameras here? This seems like something weird's going to happen. But that power slam that Ron hits Vader with, woo-hoo-hoo! I saw it recently. Not just anybody could do that to Vader,
No. And again, Vader was one of those guys who wasn't going to help. You're going to have to pick him up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Ron makes him look like a bag of potatoes. Like it was not, it's insane how strong this guy is. But yes, Ron Simmons, the first recognized Black World Champion. I collect action figures because I am trying to be single for the rest of my life, I think. And I have that Ron Simmons. He's in that gear, with the WCW World Title. I love it. I love it. It's one of my favorites that I have. Now, the book begins with the analysis of a very infamous storyline. It's the story of the, Triple H and Booker T's promos, feud, and the match that culminated at WrestleMania 19 in Seattle. I'm from Seattle, and I was there.
Oh, wow.
And I will say that it's widely considered one of the best WrestleManias ever. And that ending to that match and the very embarrassing promos that led to that match, very heavily leaning into just overtly racist stuff.
Yeah.
It was very uncomfortable to watch, but I have to admit, as a wrestling fan, there's a lot of cringe that happens in wrestling that you kind of just go like, okay, but Booker's gonna win, and so that's okay. I wouldn't have done that, but whatever. And you talk extensively, and then at WrestleMania 19, Booker lost.
Right.
Why do you think this story, out of the many racist wrestling stories that have been told throughout the decades, why do you think this one has remained kind of top of mind of the fandom?
Probably because of Triple H's position within the company. Triple H has just been, he's been around controversy since he's been there. I mean, it's just the Connecticut blue blood character, starting off with that, which was a great heel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like you were saying, when Booker T did not win the match, that's what destroyed it. I mean, the buildup, the racial tone and everything was supposed to endear people to Booker T and to make the underdog win. And that's what everybody wanted to see. And that would have really been the payoff. For it to go the way it did, I think that's one of the things that made it so significant. And I really think that had to do, the outcome was predetermined. And I think it had something to do with, in my opinion, Vince McMahon just really wanting to show his superiority. And I think Triple H got a little too carried away. I think he said a little too much. And I know he's a heel and he was trying to draw heat to himself. Mm-hmm. But I think he got a little too, I think he went too far with it, especially if And by doing that, I think he should have lost the match, regardless to how it was scripted. He could have gotten the belt back.
Of course. He could have gotten it back the next night on Raw. You know, I mean, the thing about it is he was in a position of, you know, obviously there was like nepotistic reasons for him. He could have said, Vince, I need to lose tonight. This is WrestleMania. I'm the heel. You know, this is going to be bad for the company if I win. And I kid you not, this match is like kind of the main event of the first half of the show.
Right.
And as great as the rest of the show was, in my head for the rest of the night, I was like, I cannot fucking believe that they had Triple H beat Booker T. Like, what the hell is happening? Like, this is crazy.
Right. It, yeah, I think that's what makes this one so enduring. I mean, it's just lasting so long because of that, and because Triple H is what's he like, the creative?
He's the content
or something. Yeah,
chief content, whatever he is.
Right, whatever they call it.
Yeah, and it's wild because I think that you know, certainly it was in poor taste to begin with, regardless if Booker won or not, right?
True.
Like, it's like you went too far, you know, guy who wore blackface against the Nation of Domination. You went too far, and the only thing you can do from there is have him triumph in the end, right?
Right.
And for them to, it really felt like a middle finger to the crowd, and maybe to just a lot of specific people for no reason, really.
Right.
And that just kind of, in my mind, it kicked off 15 years of baffling decisions that WWE made around this kind of stuff, that so easily just do the thing that's obvious that people want, and them very stubbornly not doing that thing. So it's a great analysis of this whole situation. Highly recommend people check it out if that's something you've heard about and don't know much about. Different question though, which wrestler in this book, because you write about these pioneers that kind of are the pre-world champion era. Then you write about the world champions, then you write about the tag champions as well, which I thought was a nice inclusion.
Yes.
Of all the wrestlers in this book, which one do you wish you could have written more about, or had more story to tell that you had to fit into? It was a small space and you just had to squeeze a lot in.
I would say Ernie Ladd.
Okay.
Even though I did give a good amount of attention to him, because that was just doing the research on him, I learned that he was the first African-American booker. I did not know that. And I knew he was very instrumental, but I just had no idea. And that says a lot of the trust that Bill Watts had in Ernie Ladd to let him book those matches like that in Mid-South. I mean, so it was great watching, but I mean, again, I had no idea. And I think that was just kind of quiet. I think probably the people, the people in the business knew, but outside of that, I don't think anyone really knew that.
Ernie Ladd is also one of those guys who's just universally respected by everyone. You know, he had a great mind for the business, but he was also almost as big as Andre. And, they had matches against each other where, this is one of the few people who ever stood almost nose to nose with Andre. And you could buy that Ernie could beat him, I mean.
Right. It's kind of believable that he would actually have a chance against Andre, whereas most people didn't.
In a lot of towns, Andre is wrestling three guys at once, and
right.
And so when you got to see him versus even like a very young Hulk Hogan, I mean, like, that's another huge guy who looked believable.
Yes,
Ernie, he was a great heel. He was a great wrestler, and and he was really brilliant. And I think he would have. There should be a book about Ernie Ladd if there isn't, because he very influential figure in the wrestling business.
Definitely, definitely. And, a lot of the wrestlers from that era, what I really liked about them, and I hate to sound like the old guy who said back in the day we used to, but, they knew how to set up a story.
Mm-hmm.
You enjoyed listening to the promos that they cut. I don't really hear good promos these days. And again, I hate to say that, but you could you enjoyed the promo to build up to the match in the ring with them. So they were good performers. They were good microphone skills. Obviously, they were tough, which a lot of people don't really understand unless you try to mess with one of them. That was the criteria for being a champion, because they couldn't have their champion go out to a bar and get beat up. So, the guys were really tough as well. And they knew that, because everybody, oh, this is fake. So they, if you go out to a bar, somebody's going to try you, because, and that's just, I think that's just something in the testosterone of men anyway. I mean, when we just start seeing somebody's going to try to see another big guy, he's going to try to challenge him. So,
yeah,
I like those guys from that era. But yeah, Ernie Ladd was one person I probably would like to do a lot more research on.
Well, I'd love it if you did, because I think he's a fascinating guy. I mean, even Vince McMahon deeply respected Ernie Ladd, and Vince didn't respect a lot of people. So, I mean,
That's true.
it's pretty wild. But Ernie Ladd is a WWE Hall of Famer, and he is universally renowned for what he contributed to the industry. And what a smart guy he was.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, how do you kind of feel about the way black wrestlers are treated in mainstream wrestling today? Do you think there's been, as far as representation goes, like how do you feel it's improved, or has it, to a notable degree?
I think the representation has been a lot better these days. The only one, I can think of right now that's kind of questionable is, in terms of the name at least, Street Profits. But other than that, I mean, a lot of the images are not stereotypical like they used to be with Crime Time and that.
Right.
I like the way everybody, I think, kind of has a little more control over their characters now, and they're trying to be a lot more positive. Even the heel, you can be a heel without being the stereotype of a criminal, or, so yeah, I think it's gotten much better.
I agree with you. I think, Crime Time, I mean, it's like, did anybody, like, you guys are trying to like call yourself a family product now, and you have a team called Crime Time running around. Like,
yeah,
and those guys were good wrestlers. They could have done something way more constructive than that. But yeah, I would agree. I think that there's, certainly looking from a different vantage point, I think, black wrestlers are much more known for their individual talents than they are like, hey, I'm a thug from blah, 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 which is the classic booking
right.
of Vince McMahon or somebody like that. So, as we're kind of closing up here, I guess, where can people buy your book, and how can we stay in touch with you? Kind of, if people want to keep it, track of what you're doing online, where should they go to buy the book, first of all?
Yes. The book is available worldwide. So your favorite bookstores, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local bookstores, they have it. I would strongly suggest everybody go to my website, which is davidlshabazz.com, because on my website, it also has links to my socials. I have a blog on there. I have that book and other books. And I do offer an autographed copy that you can get from my website only, because if you order it from those other distributors, I mean, it's coming straight from them. It's not coming to me. I have the ones, I have some, and so I'm able to autograph those if you order it from me. And it's actually a sweet deal, because it's the same price without the taxes and all that you would have to pay from one of the other bookstores if you get it from there.
Absolutely. And, in this third edition, you go all the way up to Swerve Strickland, Mercedes Moné, a very contemporary take. And I know you said you're not going to write another one of these, but we both know anything can happen. You never say never in pro wrestling, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
And Jade Cargill just won the singles championship now.
There we go. History's happening right in front of us. I mean, it's, anything is possible. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate the book, how much I appreciate you making a little time to come on and talk about it. I think recognizing the significance of Black wrestlers, if you're a wrestling fan, you really owe it to yourself to read this and ingest it and really check it out. It doesn't matter if you're white, Black, Asian, whatever nationality you are is immaterial.
Right.
I'm appreciating it. I have this on my Kindle reader thing, and I have read the first couple chapters already. I'm already loving it. Again, this book is called Pro Wrestling's Black World Champions by David L. Shabazz. It's in its third edition. You can find it anywhere. Go to his website. We'll have all of his links in the show notes, so you can just click at the bottom of this podcast episode and go directly to the source. So, David Shabazz, thank you so much.
Thank you. It makes a great stocking stuffer, everybody.
There we go. It is the holiday season. So, yes, I'm Blade Daly, Pro Wrestling Forever. We will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.